In today's episode, we are doing a July 2020 portfolio update. So we'll be taking a quick look at my passive income portfolio, the activity there, what's been going on for the month. We'll take a look at a summary of my dividends from that portfolio for the month of July. And lastly, we'll take a look at a summary of all of my dividends. This will be a first look at my entire portfolio, the set across all of my portfolios, and what they're doing to produce dividends in July. So if you want a channel that is going to help you speed up your journey to financial freedom through dividend growth investing, Stately Investing is the place for you. So hit that subscribe button below and let's get started. All right, so let's look at the passive income portfolio and see how we've been doing for the month. Let's first take a look at the overall view. So we are at $31,782, which is a gain of almost 1870 here with a 16% return. Most of that again coming from market gains, but a significant portion coming from earned dividends. So overall, you can see that we're doing pretty good with our dividends. It's growing over time, which is what we like to see, and we'll get into that a little later in the video. For the monthly view, we can see what happened here. There was a surge of net cash flow, so we'll look at that in the activity. You'll see that I added quite a bit of money to this portfolio in the past month. But overall, a 6% return for the month, which is not bad at all. And mostly the market has been going up, so a significant portion of that is from market gains. And you can see in the earned dividends, this is at $66. So we're in the activities tab for the month, and we are looking at kind of all of my activities. So let's actually scroll to the bottom and see how this started off. So you can see there were a couple buys, probably from some dividends that were rewarded in the previous month. You can see my usual deposits of $500 here, additional buys, and then you can see some pretty consistent dividends. So my two biggest holdings in this portfolio are actually Altria Group and Philip Morris. You can check out my previous video on Philip Morris versus Altria, which is the better buy. I'll put a link up top. But you can see they paid out significant dividends in July. Very good yields on both of these companies. But then you see on July 10th, I put in a large chunk of money, so $9,000. And with that $9,000, we bought quite a few things. So you can see some large chunks of things here. There's a big purchase of Prudential, AbbVie, Starbucks. So overall, this is really just trying to balance my portfolio to my target allocations. But you can see I purchased a lot of pretty much everything in the portfolio. Again, you see Philip Morris there, and Altria, right, two of my biggest holdings, Johnson & Johnson. So things that I am targeting, you can kind of get a feel for. Obviously, this is dependent on their price at the time, but you can see a feel for what was purchased with that chunk of money. So that was a big chunk in the middle of July. Again, there was some trading going on as well. I sold a stock, so I sold ORI. I wasn't necessarily comfortable with its performance in my portfolio, so I sold out of it, and with that bought some things that I was more targeting, specifically Store. I love this stock. You guys can check out my video on REITs. I'll put a link up top. But overall, you can see that was the one sale for the month. And if we jump back after that sale, there's just more dividends, the usual deposits, and then I did another deposit of $3,000, right? So there's a large chunk of deposits this month. Like I said, I had some cash sitting around and I wanted to invest. I thought this was a good time. I wanted to buy some things in particular that I thought were well priced and just pump more money into this portfolio. I think over time I'll be saving some cash and seeing where the market goes. And anytime there are dips that are big enough or dips in my particular stocks in my portfolio, I will be investing in this passive income portfolio. So that's the view for the month. Let's jump over to my dividend tracker and see how those dividends actually looked for the month. All right, so we're in the dividend tracker and you can see what is going on for the month of July. We talked about the fund size and why that jumped so dramatically. Obviously, there was around 13,000 or so invested, 13,500. And so that's why that jump was there. But also the market did fairly well that month. You can see that there was, I gained around $981 from the market. Overall, my dividends were $57 for the month, which is slightly down from the peak that we saw in June for this portfolio. And then I've added this column. So I'm hiding a bunch of calculations here, but I'm adding this column of total dividends. So I got the suggestion that I should show what portion of my portfolio is actually made up from this passive income stream that we like to analyze on the channel versus other dividends that I am receiving. So I'm receiving quite a few dividends from other investments in my portfolio. And we can jump into that tab actually. So let's jump over to the total dividends tab. You can see all of my investment accounts here and what I'm being paid in dividends per month. And so we started tracking the passive income portfolio. This is the number one here in late September, basically, is when I earned my first dividend at the end of that month. And so we are tracking this at the end of each month since late September of last year. We are getting close to hitting a year, so it'll be interesting to see the year-over-year numbers, obviously, and we can start doing that once we hit September 30th of this year. But you can see I have some other portfolios as well, some other stocks. So I have an M1 Roth account, I have my bonds account, which actually also pays out dividends. I have an Acorns account, Charles Schwab account. My Charles Schwab account is just some random individual stocks that I've owned here and there, but some of them are paying out dividends. And actually, I have some store that I've been adding in that account as well. So you can see most of that dividend is actually coming from store, and you can see that's the bigger numbers, those $5 numbers there. However, I have a large Fidelity rollover IRA that pays out quite a significant amount of dividends quarterly, right? So you can see the $200 mark here. So the end of that quarter, the end of the year, March, etc. Right? So every 3 months, you'll kind of see this big hit of dividend payments, and so that makes up a significant portion. My Robinhood account, you can see basically was zero until I started investing in specific stocks, and you can see here that it's basically going to hit in like April and July. I believe this is mostly coming from store as well. There's quite a bit of store there, but I've been adding slowly to that Robinhood account. And so, it's about half, I would say, or actually maybe a third of what my passive income portfolio is. So if my passive income portfolio is around 30,000, this Robinhood account is around 10,000, and it's generating quite a bit of dividends, even though the size is much smaller. I'm very focused on what stocks are in there, and I'm trying to do some value investing there, where I'm buying things in particular that I think are very well priced. For this TD IRA, this is a small account, but it does produce some dividends occasionally. And then this rollover IRA is also a fairly big account. And in particular, it hits at the end of the year. So you'll see this large chunk here of $438 for the end of the year. But then overall, it's kind of a quarterly pattern, as most of these are, right? So these are all ETFs. So the Fidelity rollover IRA has ETFs in it. The TD rollover IRA has ETFs in it. And you guys can check out my video on ETFs, 5 ETFs that I think are great. And those 5 ETFs are basically everything that's in that Fidelity rollover IRA. I'll put a link up top. And so, yeah, those are really, I don't manage those accounts at all, right? It's my M1 accounts that I look at more actively, and my Robinhood accounts where I'm looking at individual stocks. But this gives you an idea for totals. So if we look at totals and track that monthly, like I said, I've added that back to this column so you guys can see the comparison between just the passive income portfolio versus my total dividends. And then I've also added it to my chart here. So this chart looks a little different than it normally does in previous recap videos. You can see the blue mark is the proportion that I am generating from my passive income portfolio, and then the red portion is my total dividends. So you can see that this blue mostly is growing to be a bigger portion. So as I put more money into that passive income portfolio, I'm also getting more dividends, and it's going to account for a higher percentage of my overall dividend payouts. But you can see kind of the trend lines of both. They're pretty consistent. Obviously, like I'm focused on dividend growth, so this trend line should be going up constantly, which it is. And I think we'll get to the point where this blue percentage is actually high, or it's higher than the overall. It contributes more to the majority than the overall. So hopefully this gives you guys a good look at what my dividends were for July in particular. July was a great month, a little slower than June, but that's just, due to the stocks and when they're paying out their dividends. And now hopefully we'll start tracking every month. We'll be tracking my overall total dividends with some big months. Obviously, that's the end of the year. And then we'll track what percentage the passive income portfolio is of that total amount. So that's going to wrap it up for the week. Hopefully you guys got something out of this video. If you did, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, share with your friends. Check me out on Twitter. My handle is Invest Stately. And hopefully you guys have a good week. I will talk to you again soon.